Yep.
Okay.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion to
I-
purchase the truck?
I move that we purchase
To
the truck.
order.
To order the truck.
Well, if you're ordering it, you
You're
purchase it.
purchasing it. Yeah.
They can't purchase
Well.
necessarily.
Order, I would move to order the truck for a, one payment?
Well, we'll see about it later.
With,
We just-
assuming that, looking to the delegation, if not to 4 payments, but in either case, order the truck.
Okay.
Second.
You second it? Okay, I guess the motion is to authorize Will to order a GMC truck from Prezio, and that we will decide later as to whether we go with 4 payments or with an outright $35,000 as approved by the delegation. Is that right?
Yeah.
By December, we should know.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
No?
No. Okay, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then so voted, Will.
Okay, I'll call and order that. Thank you very much.
Now let's get down
Budget.
to the nitty-gritty of your budget.
Yes. I would just, if you would like, I don't know how you would like to do this, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I would just go down and tell you that if you want me to identify the changes from
Yep.
last year and
Yep.
just discuss those, because there's not very many, to be honest.
Okay?
We just had the topic about overtime, that's our
You're
first
talking
one.
about the farm budget,
The
right?
farm, is that where you want us,
Yep,
where would
go
you like to
ahead.
start?
Yep.
Okay. I left it the same for next year.
Mhm.
Reason being is I don't have a history, I don't know what it's going, with this increase in overtime, I don't have a history to back up how much to have. So I figure we would go with that, and we'll build a history, I guess, as we go along, unless there's any other suggestions that the commissioners would want to do.
Okay, so last year we budgeted 58, you're going to leave it the same.
Right.
Okay.
For now, until we figure out if that's sufficient or if we need more for the following year. All the top lines, there's been a decrease apparently in medical insurance, a decrease in retirement expense.
Let's skip down to supplies and
What
services.
happened? Excuse me.
Okay.
Which one is it?
Yeah, pull this off.
I,
The farm is in there somewhere. Supplies and services
It's the same.
are the same, okay.
Office supplies the same. Dues, license, subscriptions the same.
Gasoline's the same.
Gasoline's the same. Diesel the same. Telephone the same. As we go down this list, I've left everything the same except till you get to the next page. Notice there's been a $500 difference in the new equipment.
Right.
Now, based off the discussion we just had about the new truck, if we do get the whole payment, I had budgeted $10,000 in that line item to cover that second payment.
Mhm.
If we went with the payment option, if we're going to go with the full budget,
Yeah.
obviously we wouldn't need that $10,000, which
Yep.
will later be contributed to what I'm going to discuss at the end with the
Okay.
capital expense. We
Okay.
would convert, maybe lower the capital expense by $10,000, and that's where that would come from.
Okay.
Oh, I'll talk to you that in a minute, but $3,500 is for that bagging system for the new lawnmower that we bought. And then I increased the purchase resale. That is used to buy our firewood. The price did go up this year a little bit. That was enough. The 15th, I bought 10 loads this year.
Yeah.
I bought 5, I got 5 more coming. That was $14,000 to buy the 10 loads.
Yeah.
I would like to increase that by a couple more. I'd like to get 2 more loads. I'd like to get 12 loads because we are increasing how much campfire wood that we're selling,
Yeah.
and we've also been slowly creeping up on how much cordwood that we've been selling.
Is it going to be made up in the income from the firewood?
Yes. Yep. You'll see as we get to the revenue section
Okay.
that I've increased that. So I've did a increase of 2,000 there.
So really, you've increased your budget by, if things stay the same, what you're presenting, it's up by $1,000,
Right.
not even 1,000. Yeah, $1,183 increase.
which I didn't do the math, but I believe that's less than the 1%
Yep.
that was asked.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
What do you
one
have
wanna
next?
go to?
Whatever. Maintenance?
Okay,
If we go all the way through the maintenance department, the only thing that I increased, I've left everything the same except for the new equipment fund, which is 097 towards the bottom. I've increased it from $1,000 to $1,200. I asked for an extra $200. That is to buy, that line item we buy a couple, we consider disposable push mowers, the cheap push mowers that we have the inmates doing a lot of the push mowing with, different yard tools basically. And with the new nursing home, we have a lot of those ponds, collection. There's going to be a lot of hand mowing in certain areas, so I'm asking for an increase back to $1,200 to be able to purchase an extra push mower, because I think it's going to be needed in some of the tight areas that we have with the new landscape out there. Other than that, that's all I've increased, and the total has come in less because of the other decreases, has come in less than what last year's budget was,
good,
by about $800.
okay. Okay.
The next one would be the sewer. That's going to have the most discussion, I think, out of all four.
Go ahead.
The sewer, everything remained the same except for the very last line, which is new equipment. We had budgeted $1,000 this year. For next year, I put in $7,500 instead of $1,000. The reason being, there's two reasons, a couple of reasons here. The $1,000 this year, I was going to use it for what I was going to use it for was I was going to ask to have that carried over, however, whatever you call that,
Yeah,
to go towards a new heating system in our grinder building. The grinder building, I don't know if you recall, this spring I came to the commissioners and said that the heater went out. When it went out, it froze many things in the mechanisms in there. That cost us probably $2,000 to $3,000 to replace all the parts. Probably took us a month and a half by the time we ordered this part in, fixed it, got it working, exposed the next broken part, so on and so forth down the line, because that heater went out. We called the electrician came in, he basically hot wired the heater that's in there right now to keep it working so it wouldn't go. But by hot wiring it, he said the cooling mechanism will not cool down, I believe is what he said, by hot wiring it. There's supposed to be a temperature control in there, and we could not get that part. They don't make it anymore. So we had to hot wire it. So without that temperature control, it could seize up the heater basically. That's how I understood it. Basically, we can't get the part for it. We have to replace it. Why it's so expensive is because it's an explosion proof. It's in that grinding building. When all of our sewage comes from the complex, it goes into that building first. There's a grinder in there. Grinds up all the things we talked about last time where we replaced that motor. There's a lot of fumes and gases and such in there that can be explosive. So everything that goes in that building has to be explosion
the
proof.
building is vented though, right?
It is vented, but still by code, everything that goes in there has to be explosion proof.
Okay,
I got an estimate from the electrician, and he told me to replace that with parts, labor, and everything. We're looking around $7,500. He said it may be a little bit less. I asked for a ballpark figure. I said we're just starting our budgets, so I need a ballpark figure. And he said he looked into the price. He figured up an estimate of his labor. He said probably $7,500. Now, if we pay for the truck without the whole deal, and we don't need that $1,000 to go towards our truck, then I would say we keep that $1,000 for next year and we drop $75 to $65 would be my suggestion. If we need that $1,000 for the truck, then we need to budget for the whole $7,500. I don't know if that came out. It's in my mind. I don't know if it came out clear of of my explanation.
Okay, but if we buy the truck outright, find a 35,000 someplace, you're saying that under the new equipment, it would be 5,500?
6,500.
6,500.
Because there's
okay.
1,000 in there right now that I would incorporate into next year. I would ask to have it moved
I see,
for next year so we don't have to budget as much.
okay.
So as it sits right now, what I've put in for, we've got an increase of basically 65, if I'm right, about $6,500 more in the sewer budget than last year, and that's basically to replace that one item, the heater in that building.
What if it's not replaced? What happens?
If it's not replaced, we can gamble like we are currently, and when it goes, it goes. It could be next week, it could be 3 years from now. But when it goes, then we have to start all over. It freezes up, our system's down like we were. We have to get in. Luckily BPS was here, and they lent us one of those salamander heaters, and we were able to thaw everything out and keep everything going until we got the electrician here.
Yeah.
And just have to go through all those parts again. And like I said, that was $2,000 to $3,000 that we did on replaced parts because it went down. So we could take the risk, not have the heater, not replace the heater, and take the risk of spending $2,000 to $3,000 on all these parts, or get the heater.
And when you don't have an operating grinder, what happens?
When you don't have an operating grinder, we have a separate channel that we close off to the grinder, and the channel comes around like this. It has a screen. We have to go in there and manually clean that screen every day, sometimes twice a day. And then those screens are wide, so stuff still gets through there. So not only do we have to come in on the weekends once, twice a day to clean that, stuff still gets by and goes to our tanks, which means we have to have our tanks pumped more. We had our tanks pumped this fall. It cost $9,400, I believe, to have those tanks pumped. We do it twice a year. If we have to do that more, that's going to eat up some money.
Yep.
So if we want to gamble, we can gamble and not. But I think it.
I'm just saying what somebody else might ask.
Right. No. I am.
What if we don't do anything?
Right.
What'll happen? That's all.
And that's our risks of. We're going to have to replace the heater when it goes, plus all the parts that it broke, or we can try to be ahead of the game and replace it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to waterworks. Did we do water?
That's the last one.
Yeah.
The waterworks, if we go down,
Education and conferences. The budget is the same amount.
yes,
You have to be certified and you have to take classes every year,
you have to. Your license is for 2 years.
okay?
Every 2 years, you have to renew your license. When
Okay.
you renew your license, for the grades that are required us to have,
Yeah.
for myself and
One
Wayne
other, yeah.
McBrien, we have those grades. It takes 20 training hours, 20 credit hours basically. So that's what that's used for, is to pay. Now, the other Wayne has a lower grade, so he can also do tests and things like that if we need him. He couldn't run the system by himself. He doesn't have high enough grade, but allows him to work with us and do most things. He has to only have 5 training hours every 2 years. The other 2 of us have to have 20 each. So that's what that's for, is to pay for the classes. I've got into an association where they've sent me emails, and this is what we did this year, and we went to a lot of classes that dramatically reduced that amount. We used to go to classes that were in Franklin, which cost $80 an employee, and we've been going to classes that are $25 to $40 per employee through this association. They're different places throughout the state, but they're better classes, to be honest. We're learning more, and they're cheaper. We've been saving money in that area.
Water testing is down.
I put that down 500, primarily because I believe this year there were certain tests that we did last year, certain tests we had to do this year to get some of those wells back online, and then we can get